High vibrations, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bringing It Home with C.N.Smith. I am your hostess, Christina Nicole Smith. Some of you may know me by my Aboriginal name, Adelohosgi Akatanai. I want to take a moment to thank every single person that supports the channel through PayPal and CASHAPP. It allows me to continue to bring this important message of homeschooling future generations to the collective. It's truly a blessing, and I'm sending waves of prosperity back in your direction. Also, thank you for liking and sharing our videos. It means so very much to me. On today's show, I'll be shaking things up a bit because usually my guests have been mostly mothers speaking on homeschooling issues, aside from one adult male guest who shared his experience of being homeschooled. However, today's guest is a father of Nigerian descent who has powerfully chosen to homeschool his daughter in his homeland and forgo the typical route, which is the public school system. He is a firm believer that homeschooling is the best way forward for our children. Mazi, Crown Prince Obioha GM, Kanu, Obioha Ezagu Indibo, is the founder and creative director of Aboriginal Creators Ltd. And the director and vice president of Garobond International Company Ltd. His first name, Obioha, means the heart of the people. This will become apparent as you hear him speak. Before we get started, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when we upload our latest content, as well as click the like button, comment, and share, and help get this positive message out about homeschooling our children. Okay, everyone get comfortable while I get Prince Obioha on. Prince Obioha, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Sister Christina. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. It's so good to have you. Okay, so let's get started. Now, the first question I want to ask you is this. According to your Facebook profile, you were educated in Nigeria from primary school up through college, and you also spent some time in Ghana at an institute of higher education as well. You are a well-educated and accomplished businessman in your own right. So from all accounts, the Nigerian school system has served you well. So what prompted you to homeschool your daughter?
Wow. Now that's an excellent question, to get things rolling. And as a matter of fact, my Facebook profile doesn't tell the whole story. Let me just put it at that, because for us to better understand the reason or motivation for me wanting to homeschool my daughter, we'd have to take a little trip down memory lane, looking down my education history and my journey of self-discovery. Now, I don't exaggerate when I say that I'm pretty much a student of the world, and thanks to my ambitious and adventurous parents, I was fortunate enough to having lived in several countries abroad, around the world. Between the ages of 2 and 10, I lived with my family in the UK, in Singapore, and Jamaica, and Guatemala, Mexico, and the USA. All between those tender years of mine. And I didn't school in each of those countries, mainly in the UK, Jamaica, the US, and Nigeria, and of course, Ghana, like you mentioned. These are the places where I actually had a personal encounter or experience with the school system. Now, it was pretty much on and off. I mean, we traveled quite a lot in those years. And for my parents, it was a mixture of business and various other factors that, kind of led to that crisscrossing the globe, I would say. Now, obviously, my experience in all those different countries and different cultures contributed in various ways to shaping who I am and how I see the world and the system of things. All of these obviously have played a role in my decision at present. But in terms of Nigeria specifically, Yes, Nigeria, the Nigerian educational system has served me well. It has served multiple purposes, from, there's a saying, there's something I always say, you can't appreciate the light without the darkness, and vice versa. You've got to experience both extremes, two sides of the coin to get a fuller picture. Now, my kindergarten years up, that was mainly in the UK. Back to Nigeria, had a stint with primary one. Then there was Singapore, spent about 5 months there. Jamaica, we lived in Jamaica for a couple of years. So I breezed through primary 2, 3, and a bit of 4 over there. And then by the time we got to the US, I went through the summer school. We lived in Dallas, Texas at the time. So yeah, Dallas, Texas. And I was enrolled in Aiken Eagles Elementary. It's part of the Richardson School District as at the time. This was 1993. So I went through like a term of the 5th grade. And then at that point, my paternal grandfather, who's now late, he's the immediate past as or traditional ruler, king, if you'd say, of my home community. He paid us a visit in the States at the time. And for him, it was really, he really insisted that my mother, because it was just us and our mother traveling at this point. My dad was not with us on our travels from 1988 till that 93. The reasons, he had an encounter with the law in Norway and actually spent 5 years behind bars. So it was just my 2 younger brothers and my mother that were traveling the world at that point, those 5 years. So my grandfather visited us and he wanted us to return to Nigeria. And at that point, I'm like 9 going on 10 years old, didn't really understand the reasons. But in hindsight, and knowing the family history and the kind of person he is, the kind of legacy he was trying to build, I now understand that he wanted us to gain a firm root in our Africanness, so to speak. He didn't want us to have that kind of disconnect, because what you find is a lot of families, when they send their children abroad, to school and things of that nature, most of them, naturalize there, and it's like, breaking the family line, that connection between home and, abroad. So he didn't want that. He actually had a somewhat bitter experience in that regard with his direct children, and he didn't want it continuing to the next generation. So we returned, and I would go through primary 5 in Aba, which happened to be the city of my birth in southeast Nigeria, Abia State. And from there on, I would sit for my common entrance examinations. We would move again, but this time within the country, to Lagos. At this point, my dad was, we'd reunited with him. We came back to Nigeria at the same time. And, but we would leave to Lagos, spend 2 years there. And I would go through the first 2 years of junior secondary school. Totally different environment. Lagos is in the southwestern part of the country, mainly Yoruba speaking. Of course, there's English as the main official language in Nigeria. But it was interesting, being exposed to all these different places and cultures is what I'm trying to say. So returning to Aba in 1996, late 96, my grandpa came again, and he was like, he wanted to take control, or wanted to be in charge of the education for my younger brothers and myself. We happen to be his 3 eldest grandchildren, actually, and there was a lot of discussions back and forth, but at the end of the day, my mom and my parents gave in, and we accompanied him to Abuja, the federal capital of Nigeria. And there he owned and ran the first 5-star hotel in the country, in Abuja, to be precise. It's called Agura Hotel. And there with his connections and all, he would arrange for my brothers and I to be enrolled in what was at the time the best government-owned boarding school. I would spend the next 4 years there. Back and forth during the holidays, we'd come spend time with our parents and then go back. But that was pretty much, aside from the 2 years schooling in Lagos, the boarding school experience was, I think, one of the most impactful experiences I had with the Nigerian school system. And I'm grateful for it. It gave me deep insight into the Nigerian society, the way systems are structured here, and contrasted with everything else that I had experienced across the globe. It was really important. Now, the thing is, still on the issue of education, going further to the my tertiary school experience, with the higher institutions. Upon finishing up by mid-2000 with my secondary school there in Abuja, my grandpa was already making arrangements for me to go to the University of Abuja. But my mother, she she didn't want us to be apart, so far from her anymore. And we returned to the Southeast. And I would get admission into what was then the outreach center for Nnamdi Azikiwe University, but within the city of Aba. Went through a year of that, majoring in political science. But then the presidency or the government of Obasanjo at that time made this announcement, and they banned all the outreach centers across the country. So that cut that program short, and I then applied and got admission into Abia State Polytechnic to study business administration. I would go through a year of this, but then my family and I moved to Ghana, and we'd spend the next 7 years there. So it was in Ghana that I got the diploma in integrated business skills and IT, information technology. And pretty much that about sums up my official accreditation, with the school system, right? But like I said, it doesn't tell the whole story, because all the while growing up, my mother happens to be a great advocate of homeschooling. Wherever we found ourselves across the world, she went to great lengths to see to it that we were exposed to every resource possible to help bring out, the best in us, my brothers and I. My sister would join us much later, our baby sister. And she, as I can remember, even when we were little, she would look at us, she would tell us that we are stars. And, things like that are very important. As a parent, the words that you speak to your children, the way you relate with them, all of these help towards molding and kind of like nurturing them and every treasure that's within that being. So she would, hire tutors, pay for tutors to come to the house wherever we were living, aside from the regular school thing. And they would teach us, give us extra lessons on various subjects. She did this in Jamaica. She did this in Nigeria, obviously. She did that in Ghana. By then, our sister was already with us. So she continued that system, so to speak. And in terms of her directly coaching us, I mean, this was something that she did. She put her energies into. She taught me to read. She helped me discover my love of books. And all of that has stayed with me, right? Now, as I grew older and got into the school system proper, like during my boarding school years and beyond, one thing that really stuck with me, I've always been curious. And, that thirst for knowledge, the thirst to know who I am, what my purpose is, how things work around me, that interaction with my environment has always been a very insatiable desire. And it led to me not restricting myself to whatever the school syllabus was.
Mm.
You know, I'd read the school textbooks, the ones prescribed by the school, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But then my pocket money would go like 60, 70% to buying books outside of the school syllabus. You know, I was interested in everything from geography to politics to business. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I was buying in high school, I was buying like what others would consider university level books and subjects that were pretty much not of interest to my peers. You know, that's pretty much how I've been.
Mm-hmm.
And this practice continued with me beyond my secondary school years, beyond my, you know, far into the tertiary institution and up till today.
Mm-hmm.
I never limited myself in what I have access to. I mean, I love watching documentaries. And so that self-learning, that self-discovery journey has been part and parcel of me and the family as well. So growing up further and, you know, through our journeys, obviously I've come to see and understand a lot about how this world works and seeing the way systems are structured in Nigeria, Ghana. I've also been to Cameroon, happens to be my mother's birth country, although she's part Igbo, part Iroquois from Southwest Cameroon. So at least I've had the experience with those three West and Central African countries.
Mm-hmm.
So the systems are pretty similar across them.
Yeah.
What you have here is a situation where, you know, thanks to colonialism, you know, the experience of colonialism, you find that both the economies, the political structures, everything is more or less designed to continue serving the previous colonial, you know, powers or masters, those who had colonized these various countries, you know, Europe, Britain, France, and the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first purpose or first, you know, what you call it. That's the original purpose behind the establishment of these various institutions,
Yes.
you know, the government and the various economic structures.
Mm-hmm.
That it serves in any way the local populations is more or less an afterthought.
Mm-hmm.
And this is wrong. You know, there's this saying, I think it's of European origin. They say, study to show yourself approved. Well, I say, you know, they say study to show yourself approved by the system, but I turn it around and say, you need a study to show or ready to be able to improve upon or replace the system if need be. And this is pretty much what has motivated not just my decision to homeschool my daughter, but pretty much a lot of the decisions that I've taken growing up, you know, from my career choices, the path that I'm on, the kind of work that I do, sharing knowledge through various platforms, including social media, and the kind of businesses that I run, kind of ventures that I'm into. The educational system proper, more or less, is designed to provide fodder for the factories, you know, provide managers for a system that is not inherently designed to benefit the locals here. And this is something that we need to address. It's something that everyone needs to look into and improve upon or change. Not everyone is interested in this. The leadership, for the most part, is, you know, they're just keepers of the status quo, unfortunately. And those who do attempt to make the necessary changes, it's either they're sabotaged or the progress is at such a pace that a snail would even be considered faster. And, you know, you have lawyers, you have doctors, engineers, and all whatnot that they can't really apply whatever they're learning for the most part to make positively impacting their communities, their, you know, their environment and their fellow people. These are things that don't sit well with me. You know, in terms of that whole idea of self-sufficiency, being able to better yourself, better your condition, better your situation and that of those around you. Mm-hmm. It's not something that is inherently inculcated in, children as they go through the school system. It's all about, memorize certain things, put them on a piece of paper and score as high a grade as you can. And then hopefully, you get picked up by a company here and there, to manage their affairs. It's counterproductive and totally different from what I feel it should be, and in fact, what it used to be before the intervention of colonialism and the transatlantic slave trade and all of that. So, in summation to that question, my mother, she fought or strove to give us wings with which to soar to the highest heights that were possible for us. My paternal grandfather, on the other hand, he strove to give us roots, a solid root or foundation upon which we can build. My father as well, with regards to education, he was more or less a very rebellious character. Rebellious, but very, very intelligent. He was a man of the people. He was loved by all. He was very much a community man. There's an expression that I heard from an Igbo sister a couple of years back. I think it was 2020. I can't remember her name, but the expression in Igbo goes, education, aburu edukuche. And to translate that, it's pretty much saying that education doesn't equate to wisdom or natural intelligence. We have a lot of people who are they are approved by the system. They've got a whole list of degrees and everything, but what impact really have they made in their lives and in the lives of their family, those connected to them, their communities? I think that really should be the measure of one's intelligence, not a piece of paper that's given to us by any institution, regardless of where that institution is situated on the earth. And these are the things. So my dad, he wasn't one who loved the school system. I still remember, I still have a memory of him one morning. This is when we returned to Nigeria in '93. And my mom was like trying to wake him up to drive my brothers and I to school. And he was like, gee, why are you disturbing these children? That's his, that was his predisposition. But he was well read. He was well read. He was pretty much, I would say, how does my term it, a Pan-Africanist, and he, like I said, was one who loved the people. So I had all these influences, and these all had their contributions to me choosing to homeschool my daughter, because I feel with the wealth of knowledge that I've amassed over the years from these experiences and seeing how a lot of things are structured in the school system today, I felt that it would be putting my daughter at a disadvantage to completely entrust her education to the system. Because frankly speaking, the system, the way it's structured, is pretty much designed to destabilize the very root unit of the society, which is the family. And I say this because, take for example, you have the working class thing. Parents have to work to earn a living. Self-sufficiency has been taken out of the equation. And this forces everyone into pretty much a laborer of some sort. You've got to leave home to earn a living. Now, leaving home is the sanctuary. Home is that sacred space. You should, once you're not there, you're not able to have as much quality time with your children, obviously. Right. And the end result, obviously, is that there's going to be that disconnect.
Yep.
You know, and once that disconnect is there, how are you going to impact or transmit wisdom and knowledge from prior generations to the new generation? So it was a very intentional thing, I think, when colonialism introducing this whole system to us,
Yes.
in it as something that's going to civilize us, but it's actually doing the reverse. It's turning our people into pretty much a most uncivilized lot. And this is something that I feel we need to counter, and homeschooling is pretty much the way to go about it,
Ooh, okay. So I just agree with you on all fronts on that. It was just, you covered all the bases. And, by answering one question, this is like my whole thing. I totally agree with you on that. And people don't, this is why it's important that we have these discussions, because people don't get it. It's like the children really are the most precious commodity we have. People think it's money. It's not.
No.
Because if you can program the children, then they'll just keep this thing going.
Exactly.
See? And then we think the children are going off to be, let's get them educated. And, maybe they're just educated to chase the dollar or whatever the local currency is, right? They're educated to chase that and not to fulfill the purpose, because when a child fulfills their purpose, right, it serves the whole of the community when they're doing what they're called to do.
Exactly.
Right? It just helps the collective. But children, when they're educated, like you said, they're like fodder for the system. And, they say, oh, well, I'll work over here at, Apple or Google. But what are they doing for us? Nothing.
Nothing.
But you feel like the children feel like they're getting somewhere. Well, I'm making some money, and now I can do this. And then the cycle continues. Thank you. I'm just glad I'm not the only one saying this. And then, you're in Nigeria. So I'm just glad. I mean, it seems like the original people are starting to get this, and more of us need to wake up. So on that note,